Today is the beginning, really, this week of our holiday season. And this week we will be thinking about gratitude and Thanksgiving. And I, for one, am very grateful for this congregation and this church. It is peaceful and good to have this place to be in our beautiful surroundings and with wonderful people in our congregation who are going through transition period now, and I, for one, am grateful for our resilience and our perseverance and our willingness to transition to our next iteration. And in that spirit, I would like to welcome our guest speaker today, Reverend Monica Driscoll, who's right here in this great blue hat. Rev Mo, as she likes to be called, is our guest speaker, and she has been with Unity for more than 40 years, beginning her truth quest about God after reading Prosperity by Charles Fillmore in 1983. She was the senior minister for Unity Church of Christ in South New Jersey, and for the past 9 years served as a Unity World Ministries consultant and transitional minister, and has served in 18 different churches. Most recently, she served Unity Spiritual Center near the Villages in Florida as their transitional specialist. Her work there prepared them to grow into their next pastor. Reverend Mo has authored a 2-CD work on the Beatitudes, which is fascinating, and is a former co-chair of the Unity World Ministries Ethics Review Team. She is certified as a quantum living coach, prayer chaplain trainer, an integral ministry practitioner, a Unity Worldwide Ministries transitional specialist, and minister of record. So a warm Unity welcome to Reverend Mo.
Let us get still for our meditation time, and that's our time to connect with God. So I encourage you to assume the position for those of you that know what that means, and for those that don't, just, if you're able, put both feet on the ground. Become open and receptive to all that God has in store for us. So quiet your breathing. Maybe take a nice deep breath to just let go of what has been and be open and receptive to what is about. So we breathe. We take this conscious breath, a conscious breath where we fill our lungs, and then we exhale, letting go of all that is not. Concern, worry, trepidation, we let it go. And we embrace what is with an open heart and an open mind. And I encourage you to see your heart opening up and see your mind as open as well. For if we know that there is only one presence and one God, then God is within us, right here, right now. There is no separation with God. So we breathe. Conscious breath, and at any point you lose the focus of the quiet time with God, we take a nice deep breath and resume our connection with God. For the Spirit of God is in you. The Spirit of God is in you. Within all persons, all things, moves the Spirit, which is God. We sit in a room surrounded by 4 walls, but Spirit in us feels no walls. We listen to a clock ticking, but Spirit in us knows no time. We celebrate a birthday, but Spirit in us knows no age. We might suffer a sickness, but Spirit in us knows no pain. There is not Spirit and us, but rather there is in reality only Spirit. We have made a separation where there is no separation. We have created in our minds a God outside of ourselves, when all the time God is speaking to us from the depths of our own being. We have tried to become holy when we are already hallowed, when already we are created in the image and likeness of God. We have sought God in churches and found God there because there is nowhere that God is not, because wherever we are, God is. God in us all and through all. When you feel the presence of God, all things seem to shout God's glory. It is as though you had recovered sight after blindness, like the man that Jesus healed who said, "Whereas I was blind, now I see." Whereas you have been anxious and worried about yourself and your affairs, now you feel great calmness and trust in the eternal God who is within you, who is all within you. You can say, "This too will pass," not with the feeling of resignation to unhappiness, but with a feeling of inner peace and poise that comes when you know that Spirit is greater than your experiences, that only Spirit is eternal and untouched by the things that the human standpoint seems impossible to bear. When you know that you are Spirit, you are not afraid, for you know that nothing can hurt or harm you or destroy the indestructible Spirit that lives within you. You are not afraid of life or death, for you know that, come what may, the Spirit in you is unchanging, unending, and unafraid. So I invite you now to go within a deeper place within you where the silence can be heard, where we have the opportunity to hear the still small voice of God that so wants to be heard. So I invoke a sense of silence for a brief moment where we connect with God. Now, in your own sweet way, give gratitude for the opportunity to just be still, to hear that still small voice of God. And so it is. Amen. You know, there's several reasons why you're here today. One is for the music, one is for the talk, one is for the meditation, one is for the community. It might be all four, but it's a minimum of one. And you guys bring one on. So really nice. Really nice. Yeah. It matters. And I want to commend you guys. And this is coming from my experience of being in churches. You guys are all dressed up. This is awesome. I go into some churches and it's like, I think they're going to a pool party afterwards. You know what I mean? So you took time to get ready to engage with God. And of course, in Unity, we accept people all ways, however they choose to dress, right? Whether they wear deodorant or not is irrelevant. They're here. They're here to experience more of God. And that's always a blessing. My mom, God bless her, good Baptist woman. And I was raised a good Catholic gal, 8 o'clock Mass every Sunday. And I wanted to be a priest, genuinely, from a young age. And so I went to Mass one day. I was maybe 10, 11 years old. And the priest asked for volunteers. They needed altar people. They needed stuff. So after church, I went to the priest and said, "Pick me, I want to be an altar girl." He said, "Can I talk to your dad first?" Dad told me to go get a drink of water. They were conversing. My dad's a quiet-mannered man, and he's using hands, and he's very animated. I'm like, what's going on? He says, "Come on." We get in the car. He said, "You can't be an altar girl." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Women are not allowed behind the pulpit." I didn't quite understand that at that age. And he said, "I hate to tell you this, but you don't have the right anatomy to do what they're asking you to do." And I went, wow. Why? I don't understand. He said he needed help. I really was baffled by it. And I'm still baffled by it, but you get over it. You know what that man did? Father Reardon. He decided that what he wanted me to do was give one of the Bible verses on Sunday. You know, they do two verses and then they do the homily. I went, "We have a problem. I can't see, can't hear, my tongue's tangled up, and I can't read." I did kindergarten twice, I did third grade twice, and he wants me to get up there and read. He said, "I'll make you a deal, Mo. I'll call you every Saturday night. We'll go through the Bible verse word per word and make sure that you're ready." He did that for 10 years. And that's how I learned the Bible. So although I wasn't allowed to be a priest, guess what? Time takes care of itself. When I went into my first Unity church, it's the truth. I went up to the minister, said, I want to do what you're doing. He said, honey, what's your name? Because I had never been in a Unity church before. All I know is there wasn't a crucifix, and I felt good. I felt that I had met the God of my choosing. Although I loved the way I was raised, I'm not a recovering Catholic. I was prepared as a Catholic to be who I am today. So I'm good with that. And it was an amazing experience to be with that man every Saturday night. Good guy. So my mom, when I became an ordained minister, gave me a book of church jokes. And I said, okay, Ma. And there were some good ones in there. And then a person told me that maybe you shouldn't focus on the jokes as much, but bring your humor in, because I like humor. So a dad joke a day. Anybody ever have this? If you have grandkids, you must get this book. A dad joke a day. So, and it's by the calendar. So today's November 23rd, and it says, why couldn't the green pepper practice archery? Because it didn't have an arrow. Habanero, the hot pepper. Yeah. This one would better on a slide, so you can see it. The habanero. See, and you tell this to kids, and they're like, oh, habanero. Yeah, it's all good. Anyway, it's all good. Today I wanted to talk about change. Yeah, there we go. How many of you came to Unity to be changed? Yeah, there's a few of you that are fibbing, but it's good. Because change is tough. To change who we are requires an acceptance of where we've been to be someplace different. Letting go of what is and embracing what has been and a whole bunch of stuff. And it's not the easiest thing for us to do. And we struggle with that as human beings, to the point, a wise person asked me just a couple of weeks ago, why don't Unity ministers talk more about politics on the platform on Sundays? Oh my God, right? There'll be that side, there'll be that side, there'll be this side. My job is to engage God with the new people, to embrace them so that they can experience more of God in their lives. How they choose to do or not do is their business. I'm not here to tell you how to vote. It's just not in my core. But what is going on, which is not political, shall we say, but it's more of a leap in faith on how we process what's going on in our universe today. Some people say that we're moving out of the fourth dimension and more into the fifth dimension, while many of us are still in the third dimension, right? But the more we tip the scale of that, but before we can have that tip, we have to let go of the past, right? So there are a few folks out there that like the way it was. So for us as a spiritual being to ask them to change, they're not real fond of that. It's don't talk to me. I like it the way it was. And the way it was is different for each person. My mom stayed at home for my formative years, right? Dinner was on the table at 5, all that stuff. And then she went to work. Had to, that kind of thing. So my brother and 2 younger sisters were not raised the same way I was raised. 2 different mothers in the household, and some folks want to go back to the way it was. And I met a wonderfully successful man, and some of you may even be in the same category. You're so grateful for your spouse for supporting you in your dream and raising a family and being all those wonderful things. And some folks want to go back to that because it felt secure. It felt like you knew what was going to happen day to day. So we're in this world today that's a little topsy-turvy. What will happen tomorrow? How many of you worry about that? What's tomorrow going to be like? I know for me, and I struggle with this, in that I wish I wouldn't listen to the news. I'd be a lot happier. And yet I'm driven to know what's going on at the same time, and I don't hear enough good news, that whole thing. And so I'm seeking out ways to know what's going on that doesn't tip me to one side or the other. You know what I mean? So change is inevitable. The only thing that doesn't change is spirit. You can count on spirit to be with you in every aspect. And all you have to do is be open to spirit. So today's lesson is really slide driven. It's not my normal gig. roam around and chat and can come up with a beginning, a middle, and an end and leave you with something to think about, right? So today I went, you know what? You guys are going through change. And as much as I would love to serve you in a capacity down the road, I know that divine order is always in place. I do my best, you do your best, and what happens is the result of us doing our best. Make sense? So this slide, Charles Fillmore, you know, good guy. You guys know this guy, right? Yeah. You know, he struggled with this change idea. He knew there was more, and he had to explore what that more looked like. So what are you guys praying for? That's a question you have to be able to answer. What is it you want to have happen here? Is it as simple as, I want the best minister possible? Maybe. Maybe. I want it to be just like it was. Whatever. But what you're praying for is what you're putting out into the universe. And if you're not all on the same page, that means you get a mishmash of prayers. And God's like, I don't know what they want. You know, this guy wants that, this woman wants that, I don't know. And it gets confusing, but boy, when everybody's moving in the same direction, it's a powerful force, a very powerful force that you have in your hands. And it is, what are you really praying for? Not what you tell others. What's in your heart about it? You know, what do you really think, you know, about what's going to happen in this transitional time? You see, when Tracy took the job, there was a whole circle of us that knew Tracy wouldn't be here long. Not a negative on Tracy or even a negative on you. When a minister's been here as long as Reverend Bob was, we get used to a pattern, a system in place. Nothing wrong with that. That was the tenure. So when he leaves, change needed to take place. And so the heir apparent, Tracy, walks into a hornet's nest. But that's not how Bob did it. Why can't we have to do it that way? Why can't we go back? And there's a struggle, and then a year later, finally the struggle's gone, but so are you. You see, every time a minister leaves, 20% of the congregation leave. You know why they leave? They don't want change. When you guys get a minister, let me know. You know? So Charles Fillmore figured that out. So what are you praying for? Next slide, Rob. Isn't this how you feel when you don't follow Spirit? You know God told you to make a left and you made a right. And you go, why did I do that? And it brings it up. And our job is to follow Spirit. It's easy, actually. It releases us of all the control that we want in our lives. How many of us love control? Oh, come on. I love it. I want to know everything's going to happen and everything's okay. You know, I strive to be this perfect person when, in fact, God laughs. You're not perfect and it ain't going to happen today. Right? Next slide. You thought you knew what that was going to say, didn't you? Yeah. So I got to ask the question, how many of you want Bob to come back? It's in there because it's familiar. We know what to expect. And I get that. I get that very clearly. But he left for a reason. And he's off doing whatever he needs to do. And he may even want to come back to instill in you that parental assurance that everything's okay. Right? Next slide. And this has nothing to do with Reverend Bob. It's just the nature of human beings. You know? What are you doing today to resolve within you and to let go of that doesn't work for you anymore? You see, one of the things that happens when a minister leaves, and I don't know if you guys have done this, your order of service seems pretty cool, but how many of you want the order of service to change? Because the minister's gone, now we can change things. Right? Let's go back to the way it was. Right? And as a consultant, I tell ministers, when they're hired, do not change the order of service for a minimum of 1 year. Keep it the same as it is. True story. This is the first time I've seen your faces, but if you're not here every week, or at least 3 times a month, and the board makes a change, and you weren't here for that change, you come back, oh, things changed. Then you go away and you come back, oh, things changed again. oh, this is ridiculous. Things are changing all the time. And you've only been here twice. But every time you come, it looks different. It looks different. You see, because the minister needs to create, for lack of a better word, a following of who they are. You know, and so they come because you're here. And so if things keep changing, forget about it. I don't want to be here. I don't know what to expect week to week. And that's how people leave. And if one of those 4 things I mentioned at the beginning, music, the talk, the message, the community, what's the 4th one? Music, talk, meditation. If those aren't met, if not one of those are met, they're not coming back. It's as simple as that. Their needs weren't met. So they walk in the door and their needs aren't met. When I first started one of my consultant jobs, they had a drawer that I opened up and it was filled with the welcome notice, first time visitor notice, and they filled out this form, and there was 10 years of all these people. Over 1,000 people came to that ministry over a 10-year period. And I went through it and said, how many of those people are here today? 5. Whoa. Now, they had 120 people coming on Sundays. How did they all get there? I was able to pull them out. Only with one exception. They all came because somebody invited them. So when I hear people say, hey, let's spend some money on advertisement. Let's do a billboard up on 75. Come to us. You know, doesn't pay. It's the word of mouth because we're not traditional religion, are we? So when you tell them to come to church, they're like, why? But they see it in you and they recognize something good is going on. That's your best way to increase your membership. So what are you doing to resolve or dissolve? Wanting to go back to the way it used to be? We have to move forward. Now we can pull in some of those things that worked before. Yeah, it's not a blackboard that you erase and it's gone. But you want to be very careful about how you do that. Next slide, sir. Are we willing to learn from our mistakes? You know, I'm a quantum coach. How many of you had the Q process? Whoa, okay, yep. The Q process, the quantum living process, is a method that teaches us to be accountable and responsible for our decisions. And it teaches us to be able to go back to source of how we made the decision to behave a certain way. And so when that behavior comes up, because we all know, all of us want to be kind to each other. All of us want to see peace and love in our eyes. We all want that. And yet sometimes that doesn't happen. The words come out before you're like, oh my God, did I say that out loud? You know, and now somebody's upset. Now you got to apologize, you got to do all this stuff. The quantum living teaches us how to change the pattern that we're on, the way we respond to something, the way we're triggered. You know, it matters. So the quantum living is a process that teaches us to be accountable and responsibility. So Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, that's what they taught. Accountability and responsibility for what goes on in your life. And they did that through source, through spirit, through a connection with God, through getting still and understanding where we're headed in that realm. And one of the other things that they were very proud of, and you guys know the story of Unity, they healed themselves. Say what? Right? Myrtle healed herself of tuberculosis. Charles Fillmore had an ice skating accident as a child, and one of his sides of his body was short. You know, he was short. He got it to grow 4 inches as an adult in his 40s. You can't even think about that today. But he willed his body to do what needed to be done. But before we can do that, we have to forgive ourselves for what's going on. And see, the forgiveness is not a, you bad Mo, you did this, you did that. It's not that. It's like, wow, I need to change my behavior. I need to not let that happen again. God, remind me not to do it that way. And if you're listening, you'll be reminded. And then the behavior changes. And people see that change in you. I want what you have. What church you going to? And that's how you bring people in. Next slide, please. Are you willing to try something different, especially with spirit? If you're open and receptive to doing it differently, amazing things can happen. When we get in cement and say, I'm not moving from this position, we get the same old things, and then we wonder why things aren't moving along in our lives. How many of us know that bills come in the mail? Guess what? Money comes in the mail too. Which one do you focus on? The money or the bills? In my household, I go to the mailbox because I don't see bills, I see checks. And it was ironic that today they told me that they're going to mail me a check. I went, cool. Money in the mail. It could be 9 cents, it could be $18. I got a check in the mail for $24.18 from a bank I haven't banked with in 20 years. I went, thank you very much. I don't care why you came up with it. I don't care. It's my money. Thank you very much. Good things come in the mail, but we get stuck because there's also bills. What are you focusing on? Next slide, please. I love this slide. Remember how your failures lead to something better? How many of you are divorced? Are you in a relationship that's much better than the first one? Yeah, me too. So got prepared for that awful event, divorce, for what we have today. But we had to change, didn't we? We had to look elsewhere, not stay in the same rut, right? We had to make some adjustments in our behavior and who we interact with. And so good things come from bad things. But sometimes we get a little stuck on the bad. We stay stuck and go, nothing good ever happens to me. How many of us have ever said that? Yeah. I never win at anything. Please don't buy the lottery ticket then. You got to go in with the attitude that I'm going to win. Now, you might not win every time, but, if you say you're not going to win, don't waste your money. Because the universe supports what you're praying for. You see, what you give your attention to, one of our 5 principles. Next slide. This is my lesson for today, me personally. Have you ever lived in the now for just 24 hours? Where you don't think about what's going to happen? To me, I'm celebrating that the Eagles win today. Now, is that in the now? No, it's not. It's in the future. But I like that feeling, right? So we tend to go there. How many of us live in the past? How many of us live with, can't wait for this to happen? Thanksgiving's this week. How many of you, I can't wait for the company. Well, please clean the toilet first. You got company coming, right? There's things to do. When you stay in the now, spirit is open. It's an amazing thing. When we don't try to plan, they say you put that line in the sand and God laughs. You make all the plans in the world and God says, I don't think so. You made a left when I told you to make a right. Now everything's all screwy. You see? So living in the now is the first step you can make to making a positive change in your life. Are you being loving, caring, concerned human beings right now? I'll do that tomorrow. Do it now. Send a positive vibe out to somebody. Pick up the phone. Call the person you're thinking about. Hey, I was just thinking about you. Amazing gifts you give another human being when you reach out to them. It is so powerful, and it can't be written down, the value of that gift. Next slide, please. Yeah, we have to take baby steps sometimes, And in our spiritual growth, it kind of looks like this. 2 steps forward. We go, wow, that works for me. I found a parking spot. This stuff works. And then sometimes we take a step back, but we've still taken 2 steps forward. 2 steps forward and sometimes a step back. We're still moving in the right direction to our higher self, because what we really want is a closer relationship with God. Is that right? However we get there. And we each have our own personal journey on how that unfolds. So when I was in ministerial school, I was asked a very important question. What's your credo? And I went, what's my credo? I stewed on that thing. And they wanted 5 pages, single-spaced. And I'm like, what? I got a tattoo. It says, teach peace. That's my credo. That's it. So I submitted that. Doesn't cut it, Mo. If you want to teach peace, you've got to tell us what that looks like. I want everyone to be happy and content with their relationship with God. I want everyone to understand that our spiritual journey is never ended. We continue to move into a closer relationship with God. Sometimes that relationship is enhanced by something negative that's happened in our lives, like a divorce, or the death of a loved one. but we're always moving forward. And so my job as a minister is for every person who walks through that door, I teach them peace. Not politics, who to vote for, but peace. Because your spirit will guide you on what to do in your political life, in your personal life. That's not my job. That's not my job. It never will be and never can be. Because I don't know your spirit. I only know mine. So all I can expound on you is to share with you what works, what can work, and give you some ideas on what that might look like. Next slide, please. And I have till 12:30, right? I thought so. Okay, good. This one, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. Right? So let's create a new ending. Let's find a new way to end the process as we unfold into our newer experience of finding the right and perfect minister. I would say that the two main things that happens in Unity churches, and this is not indicative that it doesn't happen in other ministries, but more volunteers and more money. Does that kind of summarize most of what, if we had more money, we could do this. If we had more volunteers, we could do this. So how do you create that? You've already invited all of your friends. How many of you already invited all your friends? They all know you're coming here, and they're never coming here. You think that's the case. You keep talking about who you are as a spiritual being to other people who listen, whose minds are open, and it's an amazing process. Because they'll wake up one day and go, I think I'll go to that church today. And then it changes everything. Changes everything. The reason I'm a Unity minister is I was browbeat by an employee. It was abuse. And every Monday morning, she was at my door, sitting at my chair in front of my desk, and you didn't come to church yesterday. I went to the Roman Catholic Church. Get out of my face. Endless. She gave me that prosperity book. Every Monday, did you read the book? No intention of reading the book, but thank you. And it went on for months. Finally, I just sat down one Sunday night and read the book. I didn't understand a word it said. But it grabbed me in the context of, there's something going on in this book. So, Monday morning, did you read the book? As a matter of fact, I did. What'd you think? Not a clue. Not a clue, but thank you for the book. She said, now you have to just come to church. It'll all come together. I still resisted. I'm married to a good Catholic man. I'm not going to church, another church. It felt like blasphemy. So I went to 8 o'clock Mass, and then I went to the 11 o'clock church, 11 o'clock service for her. And the truth is, some of you are board members, she was running for the board the Sunday I came. And so walked into this church thinking, dang, this is pretty cool, So service ended. They did a roll call of who could be present to vote for new board members and begin the business of an annual meeting. Of course, they didn't call my name. Is there anybody I missed? I'm in the back. I raised my hand and said, miss me. Well, who are you? I gave him my name, and he said, I just put her name on the list. Even though the bylaws said you had to be a member and all that. There was only me, so I wasn't going to be disruptive and change anything. She put my name on it, so I got to vote. She lost. She tried to pad that by inviting all of her friends to come to church. Doesn't work, does it? Spirit has a different plan, right? So fast forward, I'm now in this church, becoming a licensed Unity teacher. I'm very active in the ministry. I've caused my divorce. He thought he married a good Catholic woman. I'm at Unity. And we could not put that together. And of course, I invited him to church, and he went, I don't think so, Bo. Because he hadn't seen the growth in me yet. But I wanted him to come because I wanted to be there, and I wanted him to be with me, right? Makes sense. Anyway, fast forward. The church was located in an inner city. And parking was a problem. So when I got there for that first Sunday, couldn't find the church. It was in a row house, believe it or not. 300 people came on Sundays in this row house. 2 services, 150 each, climb up a flight of stairs. So I get there 10 after 11. Service started, couldn't find parking, drove all over the place. Finally paid money to park in this lot right behind the church. And I didn't get greeted. I missed the whole greeting. Nobody said hello to me. The service ended, they all left. Nobody said a word to me. We had this annual meeting, and then I bolted. Right? Not a good experience my first time in Unity, but even that still spoke to me. Fast forward years later, the minister and the board decide that this might be a time for us to change locations. Okay? So, smart man, he puts out a survey. He made sure that everybody had an opportunity to share. If they moved the church 5 miles, would you continue to come to church? Now, it was across a river. 99% of the people said, absolutely. Parking problem will go away. So much nicer, you know. So they go for it. Put the building for sale. They move across the river, 5 miles away. They had over 300 people coming to church between the two services. 75 crossed the river. Even though they said they would come. There was shock and appalled. So now they don't have enough money. And to this day, they are still a small community 20 years later. Because people don't do what people say they're going to do. They want to, but they realized 5 miles was a little longer than they wanted to go. When in 5 miles in principle. The reason I bring that up is because change, I asked if somebody wanted to change the order of service, and there was one hand. That's okay. But that one hand could have a very loud voice and maybe even a serious contributor to this ministry. So the board's like, uh-oh, Carolyn said she wants the order changed. Damn, if we don't give her what she wants, she may withhold her gift from us. So they changed the order of service for one person. And 60 of them say, why did you change the order of service? So I leave you with this thought. Be careful who you're listening to. Be sure that it is something that the congregation will embrace together. Now, you can't please everybody, right? You do know that, right? No matter what you do, somebody's going to say, I don't like it. That's just who we are. As an organization, as a human being, as a spiritual being, we want it our way. And you can't always have it your way. So change means being flexible. If the order of service gets changed, the Lord's Prayer is now sung instead of read out loud. You know, if you're one of those people that wants it to be read out loud and not sung, please don't let that be the reason you leave. Right? Because if it is, that's really not the reason. There's something else going on. And that's where the accountability and responsibility comes in, where you get a handle on, you know what, it isn't serving my spiritual needs anymore. Very different. Now, here's the good news. When you do hire your new minister, a year from now, whatever, people will come in because they'll be curious, right? Your job is to keep them coming back. How do you do that? Here's the lesson for you. You have already been transformed. And every week you get to hear your transformation again. You get to connect with Spirit. The new people coming in may have never connected with Spirit. Your job is to serve them, not each other. Your job is to be at that front door, handing out water, being in the community room, making sure that they have what they need. You're in service to the new people, not to each other. And that's a change in thinking. You see Sally, who you haven't seen in weeks. Oh, Sally, it's so good to see you. I'll call you later so we can catch up. Rather than leaving the welcome desk to go talk to Sally because you're afraid Sally won't. You see what I'm saying? And that's the change that needs to happen. Because if you can make sure that that new person gets one of those 4 things, they'll come back. And the number one thing people want nowadays, didn't used to be true. Nowadays, it's community. It's not the message or the meditation or the music. It helps, but they want to connect with other like-minded spiritual beings. That's what keeps people in church. When we were growing up, it was the message. And a few volunteers would do things, you know. And when you do that, they then will become part of your community and will start inviting people. Because when those 10 new people come in and can fully understand that they've been served by you, they will invite 10 more. And you won't have the 1% staying when they come in. You'll have 90%. Can't please them all. But 90% of 1,000 is a whole big church over a span of time. So be willing to change your spirit, the way that you're conducting yourself within the community. Be the one. Call that, if you connected with a new person, you know, maybe you both like the same something, you call that person up. during the week. Hey, it was so good to see you. I can't believe we both like that same Chinese noodle or whatever it is. And you can create a dialogue and a friendship and a fellowship with them. And you'll have long-lasting friends, and your ministry will grow. And guess what they bring with them? Money. There isn't anybody out there, nobody. These young men know it. It costs money to run a church. They're expecting that money to be asked for. So don't shy away from asking for money. So we are. We don't have Father Time or Father Money sitting there writing us a check every week. We don't have the home office writing us a check. You are standalone. It's up to you to grow the church, not the minister. Just saying. Godspeed, and be open to changing how you view church, because you will be better off for it. God bless. Thank you.